I'm joined now by Brian Darling, former communications director, Senator Rand Paul, and Jim Manley, former chief spokesperson to then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Brian, there's one way of looking at this, which is that, like, you know, God is dead, all is permitted, all of the pretense has been stripped away, and the McConnell strategy adopted in 2009, obstruction by any means, that it was a kind of learned it from watching you, Dad moment, right? If he was able to pull off the Garland gambit, which was so amazingly audacious, then why not try obstruction by any means?
Well, I mean, Mitch McConnell does have the power to get this nominee passed, and he can thank Harry Reid for that. Harry Reid was the one that set the table for this. He can also thank people like you, Chris Hayes, because you as a progressive have been very vocal in your support for filibuster reform. You should be cheering Mitch McConnell for doing this.
Let me be clear. I think the filibuster is an anti-democratic procedural mechanism that is nowhere in the Constitution. It was not envisioned by the founders. And I think as a sort of selective thing, it's fine. But let's just look at the numbers, Brian, just to be clear here on the empirical skyrocketing of the filibuster, which became essentially a de facto supermajority in one of the houses, which is nowhere in the constitutional architecture. And we all know how much you and everyone loves originalism. This is Obama just in his first 4 years. That's just the first term. 307 filibusters compared to 130 for George W. Bush. There's just nothing like it. So if it becomes a de facto, supermajority invocation, yeah, like I think they should kill it.
Yeah, but senators are lazy. I mean, to be honest, the way that I think this should happen, I am not a fan of the nuclear option. I'm not happy about the Senate traditions being chipped away. I think this is a terrible thing. But I understand why it's happening. It's happening because Harry Reid exempted everything except for the Supreme Court with his breaking the rules to change the rules. So I get why that's happening. But I would rather see a real talking filibuster. I'd rather Mitch McConnell say, you know what? You want to block this nominee? Right. Let's see you guys get down to the Senate floor and talk for 24 and 48 hours.
I mean, this was, Jim, you were in the square parts of these debates. And you guys, I should say, wrote a letter together or wrote an op-ed together saying you shouldn't filibuster. My understanding, Jim, is you have now come around to think they should filibuster here.
That's in fact correct. I've reluctantly come to the decision after a lot of thought that this is absolutely the right thing to go. For me, with all due respect to the senator, it absolutely has almost everything to do with how they treated Merrick Garland. They refused to give this good man even the courtesy of a hearing. And now for them to cite all these crocodile tears about what happened is absolutely ridiculous. So you and I have been talking about this for years, Chris. I have been very reluctant to change the rules of the Senate. But I think that this is absolutely the right thing to do by Senator Schumer, and I applaud the caucus for holding together. And what I want to talk about is how did these Democrats get to this place where they felt comfortable voting against this nominee?
Jim, I'm actually shocked. I have to say, I think, and obviously Senator Hirono says this was sort of a substantive judgment on the merits, and I'm not going to question her on that. But when you look at that whip count, I mean, what's your answer to that, having been inside Harry Reid's office?
And I understand, again, why the senator said that. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at the House, you look what happened to so-called Trump care, anyone who's afraid of getting on the wrong side of a Trump tweet storm right now needs to get a new job, because at 36% approval rating, unable to move a legislative agenda, obviously a whole bunch of these Democrats feel very comfortable in taking this stand at this point in time. And I got to tell you, a couple weeks ago, like you, I thought this was going to happen and he was going to be confirmed. But obviously, the handwriting's on the wall and it's not going to happen.
But it's laughable. It really is laughable when Chuck Schumer goes on the Senate floor and says, we need a new nominee. He knows that isn't going to happen.
Wait,
and
why
he
not?
supported changing the rules.
Wait a second. Why not? I thought it was laughable when Mitch McConnell said Merrick Garland isn't even going to get any meetings. Remember, the initial idea was not only was he not going to get a hearing, we won't look the guy in the face, okay? When he said that, I thought that's laughable. I
think that was perfectly defensible, because the Constitution says that the Senate has a right to advise and consent.
Right, that's exactly what the Democrats are doing right now. They are withdrawing their consent. I said this to senator after senator and Republican after Republican. They said, yes, advise and consent means not giving our consent. Democrats are not giving their consent to go forward to a vote. That is part of advise and consent.
No, because they don't have enough votes to block it.
Brian, that's ridiculous.
Brian, that's definitionally the case.
They do not have enough votes. They do have enough votes to filibuster.
Yes.
And the problem is that they changed the rules and set the table for this. They're the ones that said, hey, let's get rid of the filibuster in every nomination but the Supreme Court. But it's logical to understand that this was inevitably going to happen.
But this is the thing that drives me crazy. Everybody just has to pretend all of these, like, everyone, I mean, I just watch Cornyn and all these folks be like, oh my God, the expressions of just sadness that we've come here. This is just so upsetting. And the politicization by our Democratic colleagues, gosh, I don't know what happened. They blocked Merrick Garland for an entire year. They made up some ridiculous ex nihilo rule about the final year of a president's term, which, again, appears nowhere in the Constitution, appears nowhere in tradition. And that's fine. Like, they won that battle. But why should anyone pretend that it's anything but a Hobbesian struggle of sheer will to power of what you can pull off, Jim? Why should anyone pretend there's anything more than that?
They shouldn't. I mean, it's the crocodile tears coming out of the Senate Republicans at this point in time. It really takes a cake. And I hope just Democrats are realizing that these guys aren't playing by the same rules as Democrats do, and it's about time to try and fight fire with fire.
And Brian here, the ultimate, quickly on this, are they going to get the votes to pull off the nuclear option?
I think they will. I think they will because we saw Democrats hold the line. I think they only lost 3 Democrats in that vote for Harry Reid's use of the nuclear option in 2013. I assume the Republicans will stick together.
All right, Brian Darling and Jim Manley, thank you both. Coming up, reports of an attempted